Did you all hear the bell?
Yeah, it sounded kind of wimpy today.
Okay, so today we're just going to say the flag salute. So if you would stand, whatever you want to do, sit, whatever you can do. Are you ready?
Always ready.
Salute. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States
of
America, and
and
to
to
the
the republic
for which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice.
justice
for
for all.
all.
All right.
That was really
Very
good.
good.
guys.
Very good job. Padre Bill.
All right, as Rotarians, let us try to give peace of mind to all we meet, spread happiness wherever we go, encourage health where people are deprived, and spread the wealth to those in need. Amen.
Amen. Jerry, can you do the thought of the day?
Can you still hear me? Oh,
Yes, we can.
okay. If life seems jolly rotten, I gotta turn off my speaker on my phone, on my computer.
Yes.
Can't do it. There's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle. That's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Come on. What's that mean? Always look on the right side of life.
Everybody says that. Always look at the bright side of life. Okay. All right.
Brian?
Yes, Mr. Olson?
Yes, Frank Jude, are you in the line?
Yes, he is.
Frank? Take your mute off, Frank. Frank, are you there?
Okay, he's not.
Well, everybody, I just wanted to introduce Frank Jewett. He's our newest member joining on. If he can hear us, this is Frank Jewett.
Why don't you give a little history about him?
Well, Frank Jewett and I met back at San Jose State years ago. Seems like years ago, drinking some beers. And we've been in contact ever since. Now, Frank Jewett's been involved politically in the area, as well as from a business standpoint as well. Frank Jewett is also a member of the Naval Reserve as well. Frank, would you like to add anything? Frank?
I'm delighted for membership consideration. I believe that Alman and Rotary in general has done some outstanding jobs throughout the community and the world. I think its commitment to community service as a core value that needs to be continued. We need to obviously recruit more people, certainly as the generations that have been and before us and those that come ahead really need to understand that those values, those core values that really help to strengthen and build the nation in every community. So I think it's an exciting opportunity, exciting time to do some great things ahead with many of you who share those same values of community service and building better community, and certainly having a great speaker like Jim Morgan, who was at the forefront of helping build Silicon Valley, is really a great honor and opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. Good
Back
job.
to you, Mr. Brian
Welcome,
O'Neill.
Frank.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is have our speaker begin. And Mr. Morgan, James C. Morgan, is often referred to as the bridge builder between business and the nonprofit and philanthropy sectors. He is respected for his transformational management style that inspires and empowers people to achieve excellence and become outstanding managers and leaders. Jim is one of the most influential nonprofit philanthropic leaders in Silicon Valley. He started in applied materials way back in 1968, and that's when he moved to Silicon Valley, and then rapidly became in charge in 1972 to take it over and to bring it back to life. I kind of remember some of the things that were going on back then. I was just getting out of high school, saying how old I am. But Applied Materials has really grown to become one of the big Silicon Valley companies. Back when he took it over, he said it only had $1 million equity and it had a valuation or debt and everything. The valuation was 12 million. Kind of amazing to see us happen. So let us give a warm welcome to Jim, and I will start to share the screen. If Jim.
Mr. Silicon Valley.
Welcome. Yeah, this is kind of fortunate that I came to, or Becky and I, you may know her because she was your represented part of Almaden Valley and on the county supervisors board in those days, and then was the senator for several years in the late 80s and early 90s. And when we came, it was called the Valley of Heart's Delight. I don't know if they still use that word down in your part of the valley or not, but it's really changed. Used to be horses on the corner of Page Mill Road and El Camino. So it has changed a lot. And of course, Becky and I were lucky to come here. I'd been working for Textron in the aerospace business, and that was really interesting and a little time in venture capital. But the opportunity to go to Applied really eventually led to these thoughts that came up. Some of you had military experience. I spent a couple years in the Army and worked for General Besson in Aberdeen Proving Ground. And he had long range studies done by our group. And one of the studies I had was about decentralization management. And there's another one by computers and different things, Russian logistics. But he'd have this review with his team twice a year. And one of them, and that got me connected to Textron because it was a decentralized early conglomerate. And I was lucky that I was selected in '76 to come to Applied Materials. And we began to work on it. And clearly, we could begin to see some opportunities. We got out of, I think, 5 out of 6 activities or divisions and focused on semiconductor equipment. And kind of, we were across the street from Intel, and the rest is kind of history that you see. But I think what's important were some of the things that I learned in there is because we had mostly engineers and very few people in the company, even when it was small, had much management experience. In fact, Mike McNeely, our founder, was actually younger than I was. He came without any management experience and founded the company. And then, so it really needed some management experience. And I had years ago when I was in the ROTC at summer camp in Fort Bragg, these 2nd Airborne had a program of leadership. And they gave a little card, about it fit in your wallet. And I kept that. And that was the first of my collection of management tips. And I found when I got to Applied that the various experiences I had at the farm and the cannery in Indiana and in the military and in venture capital would I could take into sort of management tips to help these technical but not very management knowledge individuals to become better managers. And so I collected those, and over time, I it turned out in the original book that kind of started all this. For my grandkids, was an autobiography, and then we put in some management tips, and it turned out, which I didn't know at the time, we had 100 of them in there. So after this was done, and it worked well, and our foundation executive director, Linda Verhulm, said, Jim, there just isn't anything for nonprofits to encourage them to think about management. So that's what we've focused on since then. So just kind of some of the problems that we see. I think you have that one up, yes. And then is just the culture is so important. And let's go on a little to the next slide. And when we, as part of that, and I think back, unfortunately, I'm had a little more to focus on time to think back because of COVID, which has affected all of us. But also, I've lost 4 or 5 of the people that were part of the key management team in the 70s and 80s, or in the 80s and 90s in the last couple of years. And as I thought about them, they build a culture at Applied that is still in place. And we've had 2 CEOs after me. So it was deep in the company. And it was kind of built heavily on mutual trust and respect. And so that's one that I've always pushed. Well, we began to try to select out of the 10 that actually were identified in the original Applied Wisdom book, of 8 that we could help maybe provide a little booklet, and that seemed to be missing. And our goal is not to make people great managers, but to make them aware that management is important and encourage them to start their own list of management tips. And the people got the kid in me because, who talks about who's got the monkey, bad news is good news, stuff like that. And so they started razzing me about that, but they remembered them. That's what's important. And so she went through and picked out what she thought would be good for the nonprofit world. And so that's where the Applied Wisdom for the nonprofit came from. And so we have well over 100 or 10,000 of the booklets in print distributed. And we have, and of course, I don't know how many have been shared by the electronic version. Because I know, for example, I do a lot of work with TNC, the Nature Conservancy, and it's pretty well spread all over the world with them. And they've been using it for several years. They've been using the ideas. So there is a need, and if you can spread that word, that would sure be helpful. Let's go to the next slide. So the thing that is important, of course, is that you need the culture to make any of this work. And people have got quite a bit of experience in planning, and they have some experience and good experience, some experience in finishing things. But sometimes they don't think about that there's a real need to focus on improving the culture in their organization, or to build a culture in some cases. And of course, we've seen examples of that cultural problem, because the day that we got the first box of printed applied wisdom for the nonprofit sector was the day that hit the newspapers about the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And so clearly the culture was missing, because they do a lot of things right, but you got to have the culture right. Let's go to the next one. I've got a blank for some reason.
Yeah. Hold on a minute.
I'll just go to the next one. There we go. So I think the one before that was on being resilient, but we can get that to you. But as part of making things accountable, and also getting a culture, the accountability chart, all 5 of my grandkids know it by heart, and quite a few of the other things. But these things work for families, they work for large and small organizations, and they work when you're trying to build anything. So I'd encourage that you think about it in a broader sense than you might think when you just heard about the book. Next. And so Linda and Diane and some other people who've been involved for a long time, including Becky and myself in the nonprofit world, we selected these 8 insights to help kind of stimulate the management awareness in the nonprofit sector. And so you can see these as you go through the booklet, and they'll provide you with some questions, of course, and things you can start a discussion with, a little bit of information to help you. And there's a lot of places you can use this, and just think about ways as you're going along. Go to next. And so here's sort of a little more detail on the practical insights, and you can kind of look at those. You see the key ones, and there's that kind of detail, of course, is in the electronic version or the print version, which you can order, or take the electronic version you can take right off the website. Let's go on to the next one. And here's just some specific recommendations for board members. So if you're on a board or you have friends on a board, things you can do to help the chief executive, you can get some dialogue going. You can conduct your annual board to assess based on the 8 insights, just different ways to think about making the organizations you're around more effective. Next. And then for individual people and the supporters, sometimes it need to encourage more people to share their talent, because I have people that have been really effective on boards I've been on who haven't been able to be big donors, but they put time in and share the knowledge that they have with different pieces of the organizations they're board members of. And that's a valuable contribution that people make. And it's a good idea to do due diligence too. I think part of the problem with the community foundation is that possibly the board didn't probe enough what was going on inside. And so these are just kind of rules that if you follow them, they'll sure help keep you out of trouble. When we go to the next. And there's various ways you can apply it. Of course, you can read it a few times. Yeah, everybody tells me the more they read it, the more it becomes a useful tool. You can discuss it with others because there's questions there to stimulate the discussion. You can join the kind of the applied wisdom community. We put things on the website that might be useful, and you can follow those, or you can meet people through there that might have similar interests. And then you can make it as a gift. A lot of people have given it to. I know several people here in the valley have given it to all the board members in their organization, and have found that helpful. They've discussed it. Some people have taken on the responsibility of taking some of the smaller organizations and having the staff of their organization, even small organizations, help each others. And that's something that, the Rotary could do as part of its outreach program. I think it's worked well for several places, that if you kind of get a book club discussing these kind of things, or you have a few people sort of trained to use the booklet to go to some of the small nonprofits that almost all the nonprofit executives and managers have great passion and are committed, and usually their boards are committed, but nobody seems to think that the management of it is important enough to provide some resources to help, or time to focus on it, or so anything you could do to help that way would be, I think, a contribution the Rotary could make. Next. And so these are just some items, and I'd be happy to discuss these, or more of the book, or anything that you would like to know about that I might know. I'm happy to share. I think you
Okay,
can slide, or maybe that's it. Yeah,
There's one.
this is what the home page on the website looks like. And you can see where you can click up there on and get a free book, either download the audio or electronic, or order.
okay, I sent everybody a link to the book too. I
Oh, good.
downloaded it.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've used our
can you guys hear me?
the Morgan Foundation has kind of one of our major project areas is to kind of improve the management in larger nonprofits, and that's an effort that's ongoing.
Okay, sorry. There we go. That was my fault. So I see that this is for a lot of foundations and nonprofits, and there's a lot of them. And
Say that again. I didn't hear, didn't hear the question.
and slowly, it's been changing. So what advice do you have for like a small club like ours?
A small what?
A small Rotary club like ours?
Well, I think it depends on kind of what one of your charters is, that you can help. It might be a way of because you're doing that, it might be a way of attracting more members, because you are having outreach, and it's kind of in your DNA anyway. you could utilize this with maybe working with some nonprofits, if that would be of interest to any of the people there.
Okay.
And actually, there's a lot of people that run small businesses that have been using it because the ideas work really in business or I mean, it's just not a big company like Applied. They work in startups. I've got several startup CEOs that have been using it, the tips and in their internal development of their people and helping others.
Okay. Does anybody have other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to just extend that idea, Jim. Couple of shifts that we've gone through that leave us as a club diminished, in addition to the pandemic, are the fact that our area has gone from one where people are working in the area to being commuters.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of the local things we've done have been limited by, you know, the water board knocked off one project we had for fishing for kids, et cetera, et cetera. Things have gone down. So we really are at the point of needing a little bit of a restart. Now, playing on your idea, working with people whose careers are perhaps at a much earlier point, and working with a book as a discussion group, that type of thing, as a way of attracting some of our commuters and so forth. Have you seen any group do that?
No, we more started our outreach more recently. We got this finished up and got the website finished up. I've been using it with kind of large groups like Cornell, my university, the Nature Conservancy, and things like, and a few other universities and large organizations. But now I think we've got a package that it can be usable if we can find people to leverage it with smaller organizations. That was really the whole purpose of our thinking when we first got started on this, was to help the smaller nonprofits, like the local nonprofits, you know, the small community foundations or area groups that might be interested in moving forward to help their group.
Jim, this is Frank Jewett, and I certainly want to thank you for your leadership over the many decades. And I had a couple of questions. One is, how is former Senator Becky Morgan doing? And certainly want to thank you for your support for former Assembly Member Jim Caneen and former Congressman Tom Campbell, who were very much supportive of all the community endeavors that you put forth, and they helped to initiate to help build a better Silicon Valley. It seems like it was just yesterday that they were in office, but it's been obviously quite many years.
Yeah.
Many years ago, but what they've done and what your foundation has done has been exceptional. One thing I would have that I think that our club could do is host a symposium in coordination with your foundation to help reach out to nonprofits, perhaps in the fall. Maybe it's a discussion for another meeting, but I think that's something that we could do, is to reach out to the nonprofits, the Sobrato Center and so forth, and many of the other nonprofit groups. And I was fortunate enough to serve as a former elected trustee, you know, with your help for the West Valley Mission Community College District. And they're thankful for the things that you've done for education as well, for Foothill De Anza and so forth.
Yep. No, good, thanks. Well, she's been doing better, but she skied for 62 years and never was in a medical facility. And we were up in Truckee a few weeks ago, and she stumbled and broke her hip. And so she got a hip replacement in the Truckee Hospital, which they do a great job, and she's recovering, but it has as you know, trying to slow her down is a little challenge, but
Oh,
she's
yeah.
having to, but yeah,
Well, please pass on our regards to her for certainly her enduring leadership, and we're thankful. And hopefully, we can put this symposium together and have you be the keynote speaker and really evangelize the things that you put together that I think will be very helpful in building a better Silicon Valley going forward.
let's hope it's yeah, there's some challenges with the size difference and the commuting, and so I think maybe the nonprofits may be a way to we need more of the people who get the benefits of Silicon Valley to put something back in.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
so
sir.
hopefully we can do that.
Yes, we look forward to having you at a symposium to discuss it.
John, did you have a question?
Yeah, when you talk about a culture of a club like ours, what type of suggestions you have for, finding the culture or building a culture? Because I think that we very much lack that for sure.
That's interesting. Well, you have a culture, whether it's defined or not. That organizations just have a culture, and so you might, and when to change culture, if you want to, I've kind of learned that you have to be sure your structure is right. That's probably not quite as important here, but it may be. And then your processes, and then that you select the right people, and your culture will change to whatever it is. It won't change just going off and talking about how it's maybe broken, or you want something different, or you like the way it is, or you have to do specific things and kind of figure out what those are. And I've been thinking back about that more. When you're running the company, you're pretty damn busy, so you may be doing things, but you don't necessarily, you do them kind of instinctively, or they're happening. And as I reflected on these friends of mine, business friends that have passed recently, I realized what a unique group of people they were. You could totally trust them. You didn't have surprises. I guess that's the bad news. It's good news. We never had something go into the Mercury or to the board or to the Wall Street that both Dan Maiden, who was kind of our technical genius and eventually became president for quite a few years, and we worked together since the 80s to 2000, and that we didn't know about, both of us. So it's things that you think about. That's what is it in your culture and your type of organization would you like to have? And you probably find that because you do have a group that, even though it's diminished some, that you have a culture. And is it good the way it is? Will it attract the next generation? Does it need to modify something? That's kind of, that doesn't give you an answer, but it maybe gives you a framework to think about it.
Thank you.
Good.
Just to let you know, we have a major project that we're working on with the City of San Jose and the Parks Department, and also with a lot of groups. It's called a Play Garden at Almaden Lake. Are you familiar with downtown San Jose Play Garden?
Yeah, not a lot, not deeply, but I know about it.
Right. So it's called an all-inclusive play garden, so that people of all ages and abilities can go and be there. And we're slowly, raising money, but the city wants us to have $3 million raised by September of this year. So we're doing grants and we have other people doing that, but that's something that we used to have a football game we did every year. It was
I
called
see.
the High School All-Star Football Game, and it was successful for a while, and then we were kind of just doing it just to do it. And then it kind of petered out and went a different direction. So how could I or us use this new, mission of a play garden at Almaden Lake? How can we use that to build our club? Do you have some ideas?
Well, you might think about the TPL, the Trust for Public Lands. They have a program that they want people to be 10 minutes walk from a park. And that might have some ideas. I'm not close to that because our focus has been on the Sierras with the Northern Sierra Partnership and trying to protect that while we can and get it restored and utilized. And so I haven't followed the TPL closely, but I do know they have considered that. And then there's another group called CORE, I think it is. Are you familiar with them? Because they've come to San Francisco or San Jose. They were in San Francisco for a long time. And, you might get some ideas from them. And then who was the assistant city manager that did the planning kind of things? She's a woman about 50.
I don't know.
Anyway, she knows all those. I don't think she knows TBL, but she does know CORE. But those are people who've kind of dealt with those problems from different viewpoints, but there may be an idea, a unique idea that would make what you're trying to do possible, either for funding or something else. Because you got these bigger corporations that are coming into now. Where is your park? Where are you trying to put that?
Well, it's where it's Almaden Lake Park. They're rebuilding the park.
Oh, gotcha. So they are focused on it, right? So, those are just just off the top of my head, because it's not an area I've been close to.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have any other questions?
Just one that's peripheral, a little bit different subject. Jim, have you had any involvement in emissions credit for timber that's retained in terms of your work with forests?
I don't. Is that a name of an approach, or is that the general area of getting credits?
It is a program whereby private forest owners can commit to leaving the timber growing and thereby have saleable emissions credits.
Right. I'm not an expert on that, but the Northern Sierra and TNC are working on that. In fact, I had a presentation a couple of days, Tuesday, along the Appalachia, where into West Virginia and Eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, there's a lot of private landowners. And so they put a lot of thought into that kind of thing. And here the focus for TNC has been fire and water and climate change, but with carbons, and has worked with the state to improve that or make that. So they do know about that. I just don't know a lot of detail of it. but it's a good idea.
The difference, by the way, is forgotten what the statistics are, but in California, you might know this better than I do. Something like 60% of the forest land is government owned.
Right.
And in Alabama, 70% of the forest land is privately owned.
Yeah.
So
Some
difference.
of them by big, like Louisiana and Pacific.
Yep.
Some of them are big thing. Well, that's true. See, almost 90% of the preserved land in southern area, the southern Sierras, is owned by the government or is in protected, so mostly government. If you go 50 miles south of Lake Tahoe up to Lassen, which is where the Northern Sierra Partnership focus has been, is about 5 million acres. And that has not a large, maybe only less than 50%, maybe 40%, 30% is in protected. And of course, a lot of that came about because of the Transcontinental Railroad, because when they went through that, the government gave every other section, or 640 acres, to the private. But in order to keep the Sierra Pacific Railroad and others in the country from stealing the best land and leaving the worst land, some congressman came up with the idea that they ought to give every other section, make it private, but keep the section next to it. Well, that makes hard to manage fire, habitat, water, and these kind of things. And so it's important to kind of put that together. And that's part of what the effort's been. And because about 60% of the water, of course, comes from the upper Sierras and in California. And so it's a really important resource. And it looks pretty dry up there. That's the reason we were up there. That's when Becky broke her hip.
Good, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Going once? All right, thank you very much, Jim. This was great. It was really helpful. We have the book. I've been emailing it out to people. I'll do it again. In fact, I just printed it up, but it's hard for me to read on a PDF reader.
Yeah, well, a good thing to do is go on the website, and the website's in the book in the first couple, about third page in or someplace you can get it. And he put it in his email, and so you can get earlier blogs and different things on that. It's gotten to be a pretty useful website anymore.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. And I would like to tell the members, give you an update of what's going on. Besides that, number one, next week, we are not having a meeting. We're going to be dark because we have the party going on at Jones' house. And if you go to the Grapevine, you can find, by clicking here, you can go to the Evite that has the address and everything else. I still think there's no ban. I don't know, but I'm charging everybody $25 and I'll be sending you bills by Square. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Good. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to Chris and Jesse for going to the Morgan Hill Community Area Community Project. They seem to be doing a lot of work, and it seems like Chris has recovered from it. Thank you, Chris and Jesse, for helping out. I did get there, but I was no help as they were done. So thank you, Chris and Jesse, for representing us at that.
It was awesome. It was nice to network and serve for sure.
Okay, great. And then if you guys, there's a virtual on Saturday, this Saturday, there's a virtual RILA meeting where you get on. If you go to to the Grapevine and click there, you can register and you can watch some of the events going on with Camp RILA. It's all virtual. It's from 1 to 4:30. So again, here's the link is right here. And I want to tell you what's happening. Okay, so we're dark. We're doing a debunking. Has anybody heard from Rebecca lately? Anybody?
No, I have not.
I have not either.
Either have I. But we're going to go through. She said she was coming, and we're assuming she is. After the awards, then July 1st, we're dark for the 4th of July. Then July 8th, we have Gary Kremlin's going to talk about the drought restrictions and what's going on with the drought. Then July 15th, we're dark because there's a district conference and you can click there, click the flyer to register. They have a lot, it's a one day event. And we're also going to be doing a booth there for the play garden. And Ken was going to help me, and there's a couple people that volunteer to be registrars at the registration table. And I don't remember who they are. They are, I wrote it down. Yeah, Chris, Jesse, and Joan. Jesus, Chris and Jesse, they are awesome. I think we might need a backup though, just in case. All right, so does anybody have anything they want to share or say? Do? You guys, is the air conditioning working in your office, Greg?
The AC is working great.
Maybe I should go to your place.
We also have a fan going just as backup.
All right. Okay, so then I'll hope almost everybody here on Saturday.
Brian,
Yeah.
I would like to thank again Mr. Morgan for him appearing on the Zoom call, and again, his community leadership, and thank the foundation for all that they've done. And then I'd like to wish everybody a happy Father's Day.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you.
Same
Frank,
here.
good to have you on, and